everyone is hearing more and more and more about UAD 3.6. Some of you may have gotten inquiries from lenders or financial institutions, and if you haven't, you will be very, very soon. Software providers are ready. I don't know. Are they ready? If they're not ready, they are going to be very, very soon. I think there's a couple little head of the others. But I wanted to provide you with some direction on resources that are available for you to get more education and get your feet wet and learn a little bit more about this, because we are in the final stages of this being our reality. And I know my office, we talked to one provider and they should be ready about now. And I said, we want to use that because we want to be able to offer this as soon as it's available. I don't want to wait. I don't want to be number 10 in line. I don't want to be number 30 in line. I don't want to be 230 in line. I want to be number one, or at least in the front of the line. I want to be able to say my office or my offices, because I just bought into another appraisal company, right? So if I thought the appraisal profession was dying, if I thought appraisers were going to be obsolete, why would I have just bought into another appraisal company? That goes to show you at least my belief that I think you and I are going to be around for a very long time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done that. You'll hear more about that in the next upcoming weeks. But I want to give you some resources, or direct you to how you can get some resources that I think will help inform you a little bit better and help you prepare for what's coming right around the corner. So won't you come back and join me in this podcast and learn all about it? Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks over at Appraiser eLearning. You need some education? Check us out at appraiserelearning.com. You'll be glad you did. You'll get lots of information and some free stuff too, right? We've been on a little hiatus. I've had a lot of traveling going on with ATA and Val Expo and the summit, and I even put in a little vacation to Mexico, slid that in the mix. So a lot of work, a little bit of fun time. And, I did a presentation in Vegas with Mike Brinson, and we were mixed up on our times a little bit. So we got cut off, thanks Hal, at the very end, when we were trying to get a final point across. And really the thing that I wanted to get across at the very end, Mike was talking about relationships and what's really important to you. And work could be important, but it shouldn't be the most important. And one of the things that I said is, if you think about it for just a second, what is your biggest asset? What's the biggest asset you have? You may have a nice car, you may have a nice house, you may have a lot of money in the bank, and those are all wonderful assets. But if you lose your car, you can get another one. If you lose your house, you can get another one. If you lose your wealth, you can rebuild. I've been on top of the mountain. I've been at the bottom of the mountain, everywhere in between. The top's better, trust me. But that's just stuff. You can replace stuff. One thing, and maybe it's because I'm getting a little older, I don't know, but one asset that I have that I can't get back is time. So remember that when you're dead set on work, you can't get that time back. So enjoy your family and your friends. Turn your phone upside down, turn it off, forget it for the day, and try and enjoy that most valuable asset that you have. The asset that is wasting away and will someday be gone is time. So enjoy your time. Hey, I wanted to share a few things with you. I'm glad you're here. So I'm going to actually share my screen and point you in a couple of directions to get you some additional education on what's coming up, the UAD stuff, right? So I'm going to share my screen. And right now, I don't even know what browser I'm on, so don't make fun of something that's showing up in the background. I literally want to do this real time with you right now. So I don't even know what's on the screen. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to type up here Fannie Mae, FannieMae.com/UAD. And if you haven't been to this page, I can't encourage you enough to jump over here and take a look at it. All right. It's got a ton of information on it. Now we're going to scroll on down. It's got some videos that are available, and all this stuff is free to you. But I want to pull up what should be your new best friend, and that's the F1 reference guide. Okay, and you see a little box. It's up here in the corner because it's a big file. So I'm going to say open it, and once I click on that, you're going to see a PDF pop up, and you should see that on the screen now. And by the way, if you're driving your car, listening to the podcast, that's certainly fine. Again, you're going to FannieMae.com/UAD, and you can do that when you get home and get to a computer. And then what I did is on that home page, or on that landing page, I scrolled down to the very bottom, and there's some reference material there, and I clicked on the Appendix F-1, and that is the URA reference guide. It's got a ton of information here, guys. It's now 375 pages. And so, if you print that out, it's going to be a big old whopping manual. I have one printed out. It's printed out on double-sided paper because it's huge already. It's really big if you have it on single-sided paper, okay? But the reason I like this digital copy is because it's searchable. And if you're seeing this, you're on YouTube with me right now. And I just ask you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because then you'll know when a new episode comes out, and you'll know if we do a special news alert or broadcast. Like I did a video the other day. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I did a video the other day, not a podcast, and it was about appraiser update. Yeah, I like that, appraisal update. This is the Appraisal Update podcast. No relation to the Fannie Mae Appraiser Update. But they put in there that with the new UAD 3.6, comp drive-bys are not required. What? Oh my God. The scope of work for the legacy version of the Uniform Residential Appraisal Form, that's what you're using now. They're calling that the legacy forms. The appraiser must, number 3, inspect each of the comps from at least the street. I'm not going to read all this. You can look at the appraiser update yourself. But it goes on to say, the creation of UAD 3.6 has allowed us to revisit this requirement. While we still require clear, descriptive color photos of the front of each comparable, okay, we have retired the requirement to inspect the comparable sales from the street. Hello. Now, I posted a little video of my brother and I driving around. He was with me one day, and we were taking comp photos and having trouble finding them and pulling over on a busy, well-traveled street. And, I know all of you have stories of I've taken pictures and somebody ran out with a gun, chasing me. I'll tell you a true story. There was I'll tell the name, Steve. I'll just say Steve. Steve was down in Horse Branch, Kentucky, taking some comp photos, and drove up to Hartford and stopped into the funeral home. You may wonder, why did he stop into the funeral home? Well, at that time, one of the funeral home owners, Danny Shatmeyer, was an owner of the Shatmeyer Miller Funeral Home. And Danny was a funeral home owner and also an appraiser. And he was a great appraiser. He since has passed away, but he had good data. This was a county where it had limited data, and we'd always go ask Danny for some data. And Steve pulled in there and went in and said, Danny, hey, I got subject property, and you got any comps, or you got any better sales, or, was just having and somebody came in the funeral home door, said, where is he? and came in mad. Said, "Where is he? Good thing he came to a funeral home because he might need to pick out a casket." And Danny Shatmeyer went out there and said, "Whoa, what's going on?" He said, "There was some guy that was in front of my house taking a picture of my house, and his truck's parked out in front of your funeral home, and he might end up staying here at your funeral." The guy was mad. And Danny calmed him down. "Hey, look, you bought your house a few months ago. He's an appraiser like me. He's, that part of his job is to find comparable properties. Since your house had sold a few months ago, he's using it as a comparable, and as such, he took a photo. Calm down. He's not casing your house or anything." But that really happened. And I know you have similar stories where people have chased you or yelled at you or whatnot. I know I've got an abundance of those stories. So I personally am glad they're retiring that requirement or that policy. But it's not yet, guys. Not yet. I've had people reach out to me and say, "Oh, so that means I could stop driving by and taking the comp pictures now?" Well, that's not what it means, because the current form you're using is saying that you're driving by and expecting that comparable from at least the street. So you can't stop doing it right now. But with the new UAD, that is something that they, as I read to you a moment ago, they're retiring. So you ought to be happy about that. That should be good news. And we could debate that. I know some of my friends over at VA think that should occur. And you got to know who you're working with, because they may still require it. But Fannie Mae is retiring that. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you real quick. I did a video, and if you're not following us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, do that, because sometimes those videos are posted there. But let's go back to the primary reason I wanted to visit with you today, and that was to just give you some resources here. So this is the F1. It is a very large reference guide. As I said, it's 375 pages. It has a wealth of information in there. And what I'm going to do is just show you a couple of things real quick, right? So if you watch my screen real quick, you can see my cursor here. I'm going to hold down the Control button and hit the F button. All right, so Control F, and it should bring up a little, there it is, box up here. You can see it blinking up here now. And that's a search box. That's all it is a search box. F, I assume, stands for find. So I'm going to type in here ceiling height. Okay. And you can see right now it says 00. It's running a little slow. I don't know if that's my internet or because it's 375 pages. But now you can see in pretty quick order, there's 5 references to ceiling height. Okay. This is the first one. It's not really the one I wanted to talk to you about. Nor is this. Nor is this. So I'm going to just advance through here. You can see now I'm on number 6. Now I'm on 5, now I'm on 4, and that's the one I want. Okay, so I want to just share this with you for a second. I hope you can see that. For all of you viewing this, I'll make it a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, so hopefully you get the whole image here. And again, this is on our YouTube channel, so if you're listening, just get on YouTube whenever you're not driving, or whether you have access to it. Go to YouTube, search Appraiser eLearning, and you'll find our channel. We've decided to videotape these podcasts a long time ago, and so we have several. The first podcasts that came out for a long while, they weren't videotaped, they were just audioed. But now we do both audio and video, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So right here, the way this is all laid out, you can see right here the report field ID is 10.045. The report label detail, when to include, what's it say? Always. Always. Okay. So you got to always do it. But I'm going to go back up here real quick and read starting under walls and ceiling. The appraiser must is not a suggestion. Must means you have to do it. So I'm going to put a green light there. The appraiser must provide information about the walls and ceilings in the unit. In the house. Don't think that just means condominium unit, okay? The walls and ceilings row always display in the interior features table. The information in this row applies to the walls and ceilings in the unit, in the house, in the dwelling. So it's always required, and you have to choose one or more of the allowable answers for the definitions. So ceiling height, the approximate ceiling height in the unit rounded to the nearest foot. Less than 7 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 or more feet, or 2 or more stories. That's your options, and it's always required. So how are you going to get that ceiling height? I don't know. I guess you're going to measure it. And for those of us that use a laser or something similar to that, it should be pretty easy. You know, you just bend down, put it on the floor, bam, you got it. It's pretty quick. For those of you using a tape measure, don't. I was taught this at a live class in Cookeville, and on a break I went out and set my Jeep to make some calls, and I saw 3 appraisers over there standing. I got a picture somewhere, and I gave him a hard time, and he had a steel tape measure, and he was going up and up and up. And I'm like, what are you trying to do? Measure the tree or something? He's like, no, I'm trying to show these guys that it's possible to measure ceiling height with a steel tape measure. And I'm like, okay, if you can do it, do it. You know, and he got up, I don't know, 9 feet. He showed him how to do it. So what if you have a 10-foot ceiling, 12-foot ceiling? But anyway, I tease when we come to this one, and I say, if you're using a fiberglass tape measure, you're going to carry around a ladder and get on a ladder and try and measure that. Videotape yourself. I want to see you doing that. Actually, don't do it. It's dangerous. You're going to fall off that dang ladder and hurt yourself. So be careful. Don't even try and do it. Invest in a little laser or some sort of device where you can grab that. Is this a big deal? I don't know. You might think it's a big deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal. And you could have ceiling heights at different levels, right? So you could be in a house that have 9-foot ceilings, but in one room, maybe they have a cathedral, or maybe they have, a big vault that is 20 feet high or something. So Jason, my friend Jason Covington, he's been on the podcast several times. He said, Bryan, I have an upstairs room, and I've been to his house. I know what he's talking about. He said, I have an upstairs room where I have 3 or 4 different ceiling heights in that one room. I said, wow. Yeah, you're right. You do. And so if I was appraising his house and I was in that room, I would take a measurement of each one of those and say, hey, I got an 8-foot height here, and a 9-foot here, and 10 feet plus over here. I don't know if you're excited about this or hate it. It is a requirement. It's always required. A lot of houses you go into, maybe you measure a ceiling or 2, it's 8 feet, and you feel pretty good that the rest of the house is the same throughout. That's your business decision how you're going to get this information, okay? This is a very handy guide. In one of my prior podcasts, I talked about broadband, and I told you, man, when I heard about that, I was frustrated and upset. I'm going to type broadband there if I spelled it right. I don't know. We'll see. And now I feel a little bit better about it. There is a reference right here, clarified documentation, and then there's another one, and this is the requirement. So if you see how quickly you can navigate this with that little search mechanism. So I'm on page 76 right now. That would have taken me going to the table of content, looking, and then turning all those pages in the digital. I could just type it in and bam, I get there that quick, right? So here is utilities. This is under the utilities and impact to value marketability, broadband internet. And you can see right here, 4.067, broadband internet available. When is it required? It's always required, people. And your answers are yes or no. You don't have a no, you don't have a maybe. And this is the definitions. If you check yes, high-speed internet access is publicly available exclusively through a digital subscriber line, fiber optic, or cable. If you answer no, then what you're saying is the public high-speed internet access is unavailable or is only available through a private satellite. So that's pretty clear. That's pretty clear. If it's a satellite, it's no. Well, what if it's Starlink? Is that a satellite? Then the answer is no. Um, I'll tell you, when this initially came out, I was a little concerned because, and I told this story in a video before, maybe on a podcast. I'm going to just reiterate it. A buddy of mine bought a house, and one of his conditions was, is there broadband readily available? Is it here to the house? And the MLS listing said yes, and the seller said yes. Everybody said yes. He bought the house. When he was changing the utilities over, he's got his trash service changed over in his name. He got the water, the electric, all that changed over in his name, the gas. He called the internet service provider back then. I don't remember if it was Time Warner or Spectrum. They change around a little bit, but he called them up and he said, hey, I need to schedule to get the highest speed internet access available to my house. You see, I work at the hospital and I'm an IT specialist, and I got to be ready to spring into action at a moment's notice in the event something goes bad. And when he called the cable company, they said, well, we're sorry. High-speed internet is not available to your house. And he said, whoa. I just bought this house. This is a newer subdivision. The house was maybe a couple of years old. I don't know. And he said, I was told it's here. And they said, well, it is readily available to your subdivision, and it's even readily available to your street. The problem is it's across the street and not on your side of the street. Obviously, he wasn't happy. He was pretty upset about it. And he said, you don't understand. I mean, the hospital could call me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm one of the only few guys there that has to spring into action. I have to have high-speed internet where I may not have time to drive to the hospital. I got to get them up, and this could be life-threatening. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. It's not available. And he said, well, what do I got to do to make it available? If you're on my street or across the street, what would it cost me to encourage you to come over to my house now instead of working that side of the street? What's it cost me to get it over here? And they said, well, let me check and I'll get back with you. And they got back with him and they said, we can do it. And we can have somebody out there next week, but it's going to cost you $13,000. Would he have recourse against the individual that sold him that house? I don't know. I'm not an attorney, certainly not a judge. I mean, anybody can sue anybody for any reason. And if you got to go to court, you still lose, even if you win. What do I mean by that? There's an appraiser that sued a regulatory board one time, took him years, and he won. I bumped into him one day. I said, congratulations. He said, what? I said, I heard your lawsuit against the board. You were successful. You won. Congratulations. You're a winner. He said, Bryan, I don't feel much like a winner. It took me multiple years, and it cost me thousands of dollars. I don't feel much like a winner. So even if you win, you probably lose. But what concerned me when I first saw this requirement with UAD, and I got a little anxious, it's like, oh, geez, what if I was the appraiser in that case and I relied on the seller or I relied on the MLS? And I said, yeah, it's got broadband available. It's readily available right there. The homeowner and the agent told me it was, all to find out, yikes, it's not readily available. That would have been bad, right? So I was really concerned when I first saw this. I'm gonna show you something now. It's up to you whether or not you use this. This is not part of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's curriculum when they teach this course. They leave that burden on you of due diligence of how to ascertain it. What we're probably going to do is two things. Number one, I have a questionnaire, and you'll hear me talk about this questionnaire a lot. We have a questionnaire that we give the homeowner. Used to just hand it to them. Now sometimes Molly will actually email it in advance. I looked at 3 houses yesterday with Kelsey. She looked at one without me, which was okay. They allowed trainees to look at the property. The other 3, two were FHAs. I got to look at them. I'm the signing appraiser. I have to look at them. And then one was a conventional, but they wanted me to go, so I had to go. But this gentleman already had the questionnaire filled out. So Molly had to email that. And we have lots of information that you want to ask anyway. Has your property been offered for sale in the last 12 months? Yes or no? You notice I didn't say, has it been listed for sale? I said, has it been offered for sale? And there is a difference there. Talk about the kitchen and bathrooms. Have they been updated, remodeled, the time frames? We have a whole host of questions there. Then we have some disclosure statements like we're not home inspectors, things like that. And then finally we ask, are there any sales that you would like for us to consider? And I'll talk about that. I'll bring that one back up in a subsequent podcast when we talk about some other things that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have put in this UAD. Some things I really like, in particular for that, is sales that you considered but you ended up not using. We'll talk about that in another podcast. But guess what I'm probably going to add to our questionnaire? I'm going to add, is there broadband available to your house, to the subject property? And I'll give the definitions as prescribed in this F1. And I'm going to interview the owner. Is it available? Yes or no? And so then at least I have that in my work file. And we make these questionnaires part of the appraisal report. But let me show you something else that I stumbled across. And I'm not telling you to use this. You use whatever makes you comfortable. It's something that I found, and when I learn of something, I get excited about it, and I want to share it with you, right? So I came in here, and as you can see, this says broadbandmap.fcc.gov/home. So this is from the FCC. Makes me feel a little bit better. And you can search by address. So what I'm going to do, you hear me talk about Thoroughbred Acres a lot. That's where I grew up. I'm going to just pull up the house that we moved into when I was 9 years old over in Thoroughbred Acres in Owensboro, Kentucky. And you can see it brought up a big map here, and you can zoom in on the map, right? So I can zoom in on it. And lo and behold, that's our subject property, or that's the example I'm giving the house I grew up in, right? And then over here on the right, it gives the address, 2513 Citation Avenue, Owensboro, Kentucky, and it talks about broadband availability. Let's look at it. HughesNet is GSO satellite. Is that a yes or no? That would be no. It's a satellite. Owensboro Municipal Utilities, that's fiber optic to the premise. Is that high-speed broadband? Yes. That was one that said yes. Spectrum, which is cable, that would be a yes. So I'm going to stop right there. We have two different sources of high-speed internet or broadband available to this house on Citation Avenue. So when I'm here and it's asking me, is broadband available, yes or no, I'm going to say yes. I feel a little bit better that I've got this. And if you wanted to snip this out, if you wanted, you could hit your little snipping tool down here and say new, and you can see how that got a little dull. You could highlight all of this area right here and let go, and it's going to give you a little thing that you could, I don't know if that's showing up on my share, so I will reshare where you can see what I just snipped. And so that's what I just snipped off of that bigger page. The snipping tool basically just takes a picture of what's on your screen. And by the way, if you've got at least a somewhat newer computer, you have a snipping tool built in. It's free. Just in your search, start typing snipping and it'll pop right up. And I have it tied to my desktop so I can use it whenever I want to. And it literally just takes a picture of whatever you're looking at. It's like the old print screen button on your keyboard that would print it to the printer. This just takes a picture of it. And you right now could click on that and say copy or save as. I could do a copy and put this image right into an appraisal report. So I just want to share a couple of those things with you. I'd love to show you some more, but I think what I'll do, I'll make that in another podcast. Go to fanniemae.com/UAD. You'll find a ton of information, and you can even find some sample reports. And I'll do another podcast really soon, and we'll look at a sample report together. I think once you get your arms around this, guys, and you really start learning about it, and you see how this unfolds, I really think most appraisers are going to like it. We resist change. We don't want to change. We're in our routine. We love our routine. You've heard me preaching on this. You've heard others preaching on it. But I tell you right now, this will be your new routine, or you won't do work that's going to be sold on the secondary market. You pick. It's going to be one or the other, but it's going to be your routine. And once it is, I think you'll be glad. I think it will make more sense. And I don't think you're going to want to go back to the way we were doing it before with the legacy forms. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe. Get out and make some money. But don't forget, take care of that number one asset, because it's diminishing. You will run out of time. So make the most of your time, and don't make it all about work. Make it about living, right? Until next time, I'm your host, Bryan Reynolds. You've been listening to the Appraisal Update podcast, brought to you by the great folks at Appraiser eLearning. I hope to see you in an upcoming class. We've got some URA classes coming up. I hope to see you in one real soon. New USPAP's going to be out really, really soon. I know you'll be super excited about that as well. Until next time, I'm Bryan Reynolds, your host. Happy appraising, happy living.
The Appraisal Update podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.